In the class, the boys organized a contest to vote for the ugliest girl, and I got the most votes. Surprisingly, Joshua's name was among those who voted for me. Back then, I had a secret crush on him for 6 years, thinking of him as the son. His every word ridiculed my confession to him. Many years later, a financial news channel host interviewed Joshua and asked if he had any regrets in life. Joshua looked into the camera and said, "In high school, I mistook a pearl for a fish eye and carelessly let someone else snatch it away. I've been regretting it day and night for 7 years now, but luckily she's single now, so I still have a chance." The person he was referring to was having dinner with me, and upon hearing his words, he politely set down his knife and fork, pushed the perfectly cut steak towards me, and said he had to make a phone call. On the balcony with a sea view, he coldly ordered, "So DC Group has completed Series C funding, right? Tell those 3 companies to withdraw their investments." A contest was held in the class to vote for the ugliest girl. When the voting book reached me, the whole class fell silent instantly. The first page was for the most beautiful girl, with fierce competition. The second page was for the ugliest girl, with no suspense. And my name appeared in a series throughout. Out of the 21 boys in the class, 17 voted for me. I knew I wasn't good looking. Single eyelids, thick lips, slightly dark skin, outdated hairstyle, pimples on my forehead. I never desired love, especially not from Joshua. But when I saw Joshua's handwriting, my heart still sank uncontrollably. I had known him for 6 years, and liked him for just as long. I never expected that the day after I confessed to him, he would openly belittle me like that. Confessing to him was unexpected. I was helping my family's fruit stand at a street corner that day when Joshua passed by. I called out to him, handed him a bag of fruits, and said they were bought by his mother. Under the street light, his long eyelashes lowered. "Emily, I don't need your sympathy." He let go, and I didn't catch it. Apples and pears rolling all over the ground. Just like his pride back then, fragile as paper, breaking apart with a tear. I blurted out, "Joshua, I don't pity you. I like you, that's why I want to be kind to you." Then I casually said, "You have so many girls stuffing milk biscuits and chocolates into your drawer. One more from me won't make a difference, right?" After 3 seconds, or maybe 30 seconds, I didn't know for sure, he finally spoke. "I'm sorry, I don't like you." Rejected cleanly, he left elegantly. It was expected, so there was nothing to be sad about. I chuckled at myself, picked up the apples one by one, dusted off the dirt, and returned to the fruit stand to resume business. My family lived in the last old rundown housing area in town. Crowded, noisy, and weary. People were exhausted and had no energy to even take care of themselves. Exhaustion and poverty written on every face. Joshua was different, having experienced a family crisis, which led to the mortgaging of their villa, forcing them to temporarily move here. Previously, no one in the class knew that my mother was a maid at Joshua's house, and he took care of my pride. Now, by ignorantly confessing my feelings, I also wanted to take care of his pride. Otherwise, I would never have expressed this affection openly. But after confessing to him, he seemed to change from indifferent to downright disdainful. In the evening study room, his handwriting gleamed sharply. The strokes were sharp, just like him. I turned to look at Joshua. His gaze back at me was indifferent, devoid of any emotion. The former sun was now just a light in the refrigerator. All the boys in the class held their breaths, waiting to see my reaction. Being ugly and sensitive was a dangerous combination. The ballpoint pen spun rapidly in my hand, dropping on the book a few times. Taking a deep breath, I boldly wrote my name and then turned to them with a smirk. "I'll vote for myself too." I didn't want to be mocked, so I chose to mock myself first. That night, the boys lowered their heads even lower than before. At the end of the school day, several boys who had voted came to apologize to me, saying it was just a joke, and that I would actually look pretty if my pimples were gone. I smiled and told them it was okay, because I didn't care about how they saw me. As for Joshua, I no longer wanted to care. In the evening, I stopped him at the alley mouth and poured out everything I wanted to say. "Joshua, I once borrowed a copy of Jane Eyre from your home study. Here's a line I'm returning to you. Do you think because I am poor, plain, little, and obscure, I am soulless and heartless? Obviously, you all believe that ugly people are heartless and have no right to feel sad. It's ridiculous how you consider ugly people without a heart, yet don't realize you're the ones being cruel. You shed tears for good deeds on the internet, are filled with righteous anger over wrongdoings in the news, but can insult your classmates without a second thought. You think such games during evening self-study are fun, but you don't care at all about hurting others. I used to think you were different, but it turns out you're no different from them. So, Joshua, I take back my confession from yesterday. The once dazzling Joshua was now just ordinary, unworthy of my affection, whether I'm beautiful or ugly. That day, something different flickered in his otherwise indifferent eyes, but I didn't want to find out. Not long after, I changed my seat. I moved next to Jerry, the most unpredictable student in the whole school. He was the only one who didn't participate in the voting, and also the one Joshua deliberately avoided. When Joshua wrote Emily's name in that malicious and insulting voting book, the face that came to his mind was Emily smiling at Jerry. He didn't think Emily was ugly. He had seen Emily without pimples and didn't consider her beautiful, but certainly not ugly. Joshua's mother once commented that Emily had a strong and distinctive bone structure that exuded an assertive beauty. If she polished herself well in the future, she might even have the potential to be an international supermodel. However, at Joshua's age, it was hard for boys to appreciate that. Emily performed well, possessed resilience, and had wisdom beyond her years. Her teasing and joking with others always quickly dissolved any tension. One time, Jerry in our class treated the whole class to bubble tea. A boy teased her, "Emily, with so many pimples on your face, maybe you shouldn't be drinking bubble tea." She jokingly replied, "If you want to drink 2 cups, just say so. Help me with my classroom duty, and I'll reward you with 1 cup. He admired her, but their relationship was far from love. So when Emily confessed her feelings to Joshua, he rejected her. But when he got back home and saw all the things her family had prepared for her and the hot water she had put outside the door for him, he felt guilty. He was afraid she would be too upset, so he went out to find her. He ended up finding Jerry at her fruit stall. The classmates thought Jerry was just a rebellious troublemaker from a wealthy family, but only Joshua knew what he truly represented. It was a family his father had tried hard to connect with but couldn't. A family that had turned a blind eye to his family. Jerry's cool motorcycle was parked at the street corner. He took a book out of his bag and threw it to Emily. She held it precious and handed him an apple with a smile. He, a noble young master, not only accepted it, but also without washing it, casually wiped it on his clothes and took a big bite. It was the apple Joshua had just rejected. In the darkness, lying on that old wooden bed, Joshua looked at the silhouette in the window across, pondering the question once again, is Emily ugly? He thought, at least she was ugly when she smiled at Jerry. She used to only smile like that to him, genuinely and brightly. But since Joshua's family declined, she started smiling at others like that. Just moved next to Jerry for less than 2 days, and I already regret it. He's really strange. When I approached him with my book bag, he was sleeping with his head on the table. When he woke up and lazily glanced at me, he muttered, "Not chasing after Joshua today." I retorted, "I wasn't chasing him to begin with." He gave a cold snort. He was the only one in class who knew I had a crush on Joshua. He found my sketchbook, and it seemed like he didn't really like Joshua. When he threw the sketchbook back at me, he said, "You have no taste." A few days after moving next to Jerry, it was Valentine's Day. The popular girls and guys in class received lots of chocolates, and Joshua's desk hole was filled with them. Suddenly, Jerry rushed into the classroom, took out an expensive box of imported chocolates and said, "No one at home likes these, so I'll give you a good deal." I pushed it back, saying I was trying to cut sugar. Upon hearing this, he kicked a stool, threw the chocolate in the trash, and then left without attending class. Joshua came over and inexplicably placed a box of chocolates on my desk, saying, "This one is sugar-free." The class murmured in excitement, and a note from the back read, "One is the campus prince, the other is the school bully." How did you manage that? I never deluded myself into thinking that Jerry and Joshua liked me. Whether it was Jerry or Joshua, we were never in the same world. Besides, I was the acknowledged class ugly duckling. Joshua's mom had noticed something wasn't right between us. Once I overheard Joshua's mom telling him, "Emily is a good girl. Even if you don't like her, you should handle it gently." As for Jerry, I had no idea what he was up to. He did things without any rhyme or reason. His strange behaviors even started affecting my studies, like playing with my hair during class, doodling my name on scraps of paper, and racing my bus on his motorcycle after school. He was capricious. When he was in a good mood, he would casually give me a few original books, or share some good music with me. He would bring various little gadgets I had never seen before. But when he was unhappy, he would block the hallway during breaks, or trap me in the equipment room during PE class. I once asked him directly, "Jerry, all these childish tricks you play, is it because you like me?" He burst into laughter, his face turning red. "Like or not like, it's all childish nonsense. I just find it boring and enjoy teasing you for fun." Even though he always teased me, I didn't dislike him at all. That night when the class voted, he stood up, snatched a notebook, read it, got furious, tore it to shreds, and then angrily scolded all the boys in class. How dare you judge others' appearances when you have no taste yourselves? Is this something normal people do? It's a disgrace to be in the same class as you. And let me tell you, she's not ugly. You are. That evening, he seemed like a hero to me. A hero I never expected. Jerry was a mysterious figure in school. He would play truant whenever he wanted, come and go as he pleased, and no one could control him. The most frustrating part was, he still ranked at the top academically. My initial impression of him was that he loved to play. The first time I saw him outside of school, he and his friends were playing with water guns at a music festival, and accidentally soaked me. He once took me for a ride on his motorcycle around the ring road, saying it's faster this way. Then, during a group project for social studies, every time we video called, he would be in a different place, sometimes in the country, sometimes abroad. My preconceived notion was that when he wasn't at school, he was off having fun. So when I saw him on the sports channel, I was so surprised that I forgot to eat my dinner. On TV, he was calmly holding up a rifle, completely focused and calm, a stark contrast to his usual self. As I watched him aim at the target and pull the trigger, Joshua, who was having dinner at my house, suddenly stood up and said to my mom, "Auntie, my dad is coming back from the hospital tonight, and there are still some things at home that need to be arranged. Can Emily help me?" Joshua was lying. There was nothing he needed my help with. As soon as I entered the room, he subtly closed the door behind me, trapping me in his room. "Emily, do you only like Jerry because he shines so brightly? Do you realize how bad it sounds for the two of you to be locked in the equipment room alone? Are you and him even on the same level? Do you know his background? He doesn't even have to take the college entrance exam. He'll go abroad after graduation. This reckless affair of yours, when he's done with it, he'll just turn his head and go back to his high-class life. What about you? Have you thought about how bad your reputation will become?" The timely lit phone revealed a voice message from Jerry. "Emily, have you seen my handsome appearance? How do I look? I'm at your doorstep. Come out. Let's go eat kebabs." The old building had poor sound insulation, and his loud voice was perfectly audible inside. Before I could react, I heard my mom's voice. "You're Emily's classmate, right? She's helping Joshua across the street." After a moment of silence, I heard Jerry coldly say, "Is that so? Then I'll head back." The alley quieted down, but the phone message popped up again. "Come out. I'm at the mouth of the alley." Joshua got closer to me, too close for me to move. He leaned in, almost pleading, whispering in my ear, "Emily, don't go, okay?" When I reached the alley mouth, Jerry leaned against his motorcycle with a helmet in hand. Seeing me, he coldly said, "Get on." That day, he rode fast. We sped for dozens of miles until we reached the beach, where he finally stopped. As soon as we stopped, he grabbed my hand and led me towards the shoreline. His grip hurt, and my attempts to shake him off were futile. "Jerry, what's gotten into you?" He dragged me to the shore before stopping, then turned to look down at me. "He just kissed you, didn't he?" I trembled inside. Don't make things up. Though Joshua had been close to me just now, kissing me was impossible. Jerry reached out and lightly touched the corner of my lips. "I saw your shadows on the window." I turned my head to avoid his finger. "Jerry, why are you always so inexplicable?" I mentioned the incident from the CPR training, where I was paired with Joshua, and he immediately locked me in the equipment room. Every time I spoke a few more words with Joshua, he'd get mad. I asked him the same question again. "Do you like me?" Jerry's calloused fingertips lightly brushed over my lips. "Kiss me, and then I'll tell you." Under the moonlight, his features were like stars, his eyes deep as pools. Perhaps the moonlight was too beautiful, the sea breeze too gentle, his voice too alluring, or something else. A string within me trembled. I gently grabbed his shirt, stood on tiptoes, and met his slightly parted lips, awkwardly leaning in. As we touched, he instantly tensed his arms, one hand around my waist pulling me closer, the other holding the back of my head, kissing and nipping at my lips and tongue frantically. After what seemed like ages, he finally let me go. That day, we returned late, smelling of the sea in our hair and on our clothes. When Jerry dropped me off at the alley mouth, Joshua was under a street lamp. His father was being discharged from the hospital, and Joshua's mom and Joshua were helping him onto a wheelchair. Joshua glanced at us, a hint of brokenness in his expression. Following Joshua's gaze, his dad suddenly got emotional upon seeing Jerry, rolling off the wheelchair to kneel before him, touching his shoes with a hoarse voice. "Jerry, please, I beg you, please help us." Joshua desperately tried to pull his father back. "Dad, don't beg him, it's no use." Jerry indifferently took off his own shoes, told me to get some rest and see me tomorrow, then revved his motorcycle and left. Late at night, I sat in front of the mirror, looking at my reflection. Monolids, thick lips, slightly dark skin, and the pimples had lessened, but I still couldn't call myself beautiful. I remembered the music festival, the attractive guys and girls around Jerry, all good-looking and stylish. Each girl was prettier than me. That day, wearing a wet volunteer t-shirt, teased by water guns, and almost exposed, Jerry handed me his jacket to cover up. When he suggested taking me for a ride to dry off, I saw jealousy, mockery, and disdain in the eyes of those girls. One girl said, "Jerry, just give her my jacket, no need to make such a fuss, right?" Another guy joked, "Jerry's showing favor for the beauty, starting a new trend, huh?" From a worldly perspective, I was nowhere near Jerry, whether in looks, family background, or personal achievements. Seeing Joshua's father kneeling and begging while Jerry didn't bother with pleasantries, I realized how far apart our worlds were, beyond my imagination. I recalled Joshua's words, "You two are ridiculous. After he's done, he's still a first-class gentleman. What about you?" Jerry and I are not from the same world. He was born in Rome, free to live as he pleased. But me? Aside from struggling through the fierce competition of the college entrance exam, I had no other path. So, when Jerry came to pick me up the next day, I refused. "I have exams coming up, no time to go out." He paused and said, "Then, let's go study." He took me to his home. There was a guard post near the mountain, and the path from the guard to the villa halfway up involved passing through lakes, forests, and large grassy areas. Joshua's father had taken me and Joshua climbing once, pointing out this place. He said, "The people living there can change someone's fate with just a few words." Now, here I was, standing there with an air of insignificance. Jerry held my hand and pulled me into his world without hesitation. He told the middle-aged man at the entrance, "Uncle, bring the teacher here. Let her tutor my girlfriend in physics. She's lagging in that subject." That day, I went through a day of physics lessons in extreme shock, confusion, and anxiety. Throughout, he propped his cheek, watching me with a smile. Occasionally, he fetched me water, brought a fruit platter. Towards the end, he circled me in the chair, breathing near my ear. "Had enough studying today. Want to do something else?" I blushed and pushed him away. "Your parents must be coming back soon, right? I should go." He lightly nibbled on my earlobe and whispered, "They are abroad." I immediately jumped up. "Then I really should go." He wasn't upset, just pecked me on the lips and then took me back on his motorcycle. After he left, I stood at the end of the dilapidated alley and looked towards his house, realizing deeply for the first time that we lived in a huge gap. This gap didn't bother Jerry at all, but I found it hard not to care. Why does he like me? Is it because I'm something new? How long will this novelty last? I don't know. I kept telling myself desperately, live in the moment. Don't worry about things that haven't happened. Never thought this day would come so soon. It all started when Joshua's dad came to see me. That day, he sat uncomfortably in his wheelchair, hesitated for a long time before saying what he wanted to say. "I heard that Emily and Jerry are dating. Jerry really likes Emily and always tries to please her." My dad's face turned grim when he heard this. "That's not true. I haven't heard anything." My mom, knitting with yarn in her hands, remained silent. I clarified, "Uncle, Jerry and I are just classmates, nothing else." Suddenly, Joshua's dad grabbed my clothes and said with difficulty, "Emily, we've always been good to you, right? Can you help me out, please? As long as someone from their family says a word, we can be saved. Can you talk to Jerry for me?" I looked at him helplessly. "Uncle, we're just students. What you're talking about is serious. Jerry's words won't count. You have to go to their family's decision makers." Joshua's dad insisted. He is their only successor, groomed to take over the company. If he could slip in a word or two during a meal, maybe our whole group can be saved. "Emily, it's not just about me, it involves your aunt, Joshua, and thousands of people in the company." That night, I tossed and turned. My mom had been a maid at Joshua's house for 6 years, and I had been reading books in Joshua's study for 6 years. Joshua's parents had always been good to me, taught me a lot. Shouldn't we be grateful in life? On weekends, when Jerry came to pick me up for study sessions at his house, I struggled for 2 days before finally speaking up before leaving. As I spoke, Jerry was pouring me a glass of water, and as soon as I finished, the water overflowed from the cup onto the table and then the floor. Jerry, with his back to me, spoke in a tone I had never heard before, coldly. "Is it because of Joshua that you're asking me for something for the first time? Do you know what kind of trouble his company is in, being investigated for economic crimes? Do you want our family to get involved now? Are you unable to forget Joshua? If so, please don't come and bother me again." That day, Jerry was very angry. He didn't show up at school for 2 weeks after that. By then, He had become a celebrity at school. Everyone knew about his victory in the Olympic selection trials. Girls were talking about how handsome he looked when shooting. Many people kept asking me how I managed to win him over. When he came back to school with his award, his motorcycle roaring every day, taking me to and from school, not caring about others. When people asked about our relationship, he would boldly reply, "Girlfriend, can't you tell?" Now, as I looked at the empty seat on my right, a big part of my heart felt empty too. Later, I sent him a message apologizing and explaining, but he didn't reply. The next time I saw him was at a school assembly. He walked across the field with a girl shining like a star next to him. I was on stage representing all the students, and as soon as he arrived, the crowd began to stir, craning their necks to see him. Seeing him with a different girl, they gossiped and then looked at me. Standing next to the girl on the stage, he just stared at me the way one looks at a stranger. Holding back tears, I led the students in the oath. Everyone was passionately swearing, but he remained silent. That day, he stopped me at the school gate and told me he would be going to Stanford for college. I said, "Congratulations." He smiled self-deprecatingly, put on his helmet, revved the engine, and left. That was the last time I saw him before the exams. The next time I saw him was on TV. 18-year-old Jerry won gold at the Olympics, the flag rising for him, the national anthem playing for him. He was the one looking down on the peaks of excellence, while I quietly packed away the little trinkets he gave me and deleted his contact information. Joshua and I both attended the same university. After starting college, he inexplicably started pursuing me. By then, my face was clear of acne, a bit slimmer in face and body, and with a change in hairstyle and dressing more thoughtfully, I began to attract attention when I stepped out. I started taking care of myself, not to please others, but to please myself, to be more confident and joyful. My roommates said I wasn't the traditional type of white, slender beauty, but a distinctive, wild, and flavorful beauty. I told them I had once been voted the ugliest girl in the class. They couldn't believe it. "How is that possible? You're the one who gets photographed by photographers when you go shopping." I chuckled. "Don't believe me? Just ask Joshua next time. He also had a crush on me." They exploded in disbelief. "No way. Is he still boldly pursuing you while being mentally split?" I chuckled and didn't respond. Joshua's family managed to pull through. Only top executives were arrested. His father was fine, and the company resumed operations. However, Joshua refused to move back to the mansion and continued living in that house. Whenever he came home on vacation, he would always come over to my place for a meal. He tried every way to be nice to me and apologized hundreds of times. He said, "I was blinded by jealousy at the time. That's why I did stupid things." "Every day you spent with Jerry felt like a stab in my heart. I couldn't sleep at night. Every time I saw you smile at him, I felt like I was dying. Give me another chance, please." I accepted his apology, but didn't accept his confession. Some things, once missed, are missed forever. Some feelings, once gone, are gone for good. Yet he persisted. Besides academics and starting a business, all his time and energy was spent on me and my family. I said, "Stop trying to impress yourself." In my junior year, 2 major turning points happened in my life. 1, my family's house was demolished. My parents no longer had any worries. 2, I signed with an international modeling agency and earned my first bucket of gold in life. After appearing in various fashion shows at home and abroad, more and more people started pursuing me, but I had no desire to date anyone. My roommates teased, "Could it be that you've met someone too stunning at a young age, making it hard for you to fall for anyone else?" I pictured Jerry's smiling face in my mind. It had been a long time since I saw him, but I kept up with his updates. One of my roommates was his die-hard fan, and would occasionally share his posts in our group chat. He still loved adventures, with posts showcasing extreme sports worldwide like rock climbing, surfing, skiing, free diving, and wingsuit flying. Once during wingsuit flying, he almost had an accident due to strong winds, but he continued risking his life as if nothing happened. His posts never featured any girls. My roommate said that was one of the reasons why he attracted many female fans. The closest he came to me was when he was invited to our school for a dialogue event. I held the ticket in my hand at the auditorium's entrance, but in the end, I didn't go in. I didn't truly see him until the 3rd year after graduation. By that time, I had set up my own art exhibition studio and continued modeling part-time. Once, I went to Milan for Prada's new product launch show and saw Jerry's latest location on Instagram in Milan. My heart inexplicably started beating faster. I hoped for a reunion, but also feared it. As the spotlight shone, I walked out onto the runway. After many years, I saw him again. In front of the runway, he was wearing a black shirt with slightly open collar, rolled up sleeves, exuding sophistication and maturity, different from how he was in high school. When I saw him, he was leaning over, chatting with a girl beside him. I had seen that girl 7 years ago, still shining with beauty. He took off his jacket and handed it to her, then opened a bottle of mineral water for her. She looked at him and smiled, her eyes crescent-shaped, gentle as the moon. I had naively hoped that if he never posted about a woman on Instagram, he didn't have a girlfriend. 7 years later, I thought I had moved on, but in that moment of seeing him, witnessing his tenderness towards other girls, tears inexplicably flowed down my cheeks. Crying at a fashion show was a major mishap. Unexpectedly, that tearful moment became a sensation on the internet. Everyone was discussing what this heartbreaking beauty had gone through. Some bloggers even analyzed my actions and expressions in slow motion. The theme of this fashion show was transformation. Look, when Emily first emerged, her aura and confidence were powerful. As she reached the middle, her smile suddenly became shy and softer, but as she moved forward to her designated spot, her smile carried a hint of self-deprecation. Finally, with that legendary turn, her eyes shattered, a tear elegantly flowing down, her smile then turned serene. This vividly depicted how a heart goes from liberation to shattering, to healing, and then to rebirth, perfectly interpreting the theme of transformation. This is what you call professionalism. A scholar on the catwalk is truly different. She told a story in 30 seconds with her eyes. Her appearance is very distinctive, at first glance not stunning, but it makes you can't help but look again, and then, I'm mesmerized. Amidst this accidental hype, at my debut at the International Fashion Week, I was invited to the main banquet hall for a celebration. There, I saw Jerry again. With a drink in hand and a polite smile, I mingled among the world's elite and magnates. Praise, attention, compliments, stares, it didn't matter. I had my own agenda. From the moment I entered, Jerry's gaze never left me. I pretended not to notice, moving smoothly among the various men, allowing those with money and power to view me as a target of pursuit. I knew what I was doing and how to gain what I wanted without losing out in such settings. One drink after another, changing dance partners. During the 7th dance, Jerry put his arm around my waist. A familiar voice sounded in my ear, filled with anger. Emily, you're doing this on purpose, right? Deliberately seeking his attention, deliberately provoking him. I lightly placed my hand on his shoulder, my eyes hazy. Yes, I was doing it on purpose. In this world of extravagance, some are fish, some are bait, some are fishermen, everyone has a purposefully arrived goal. He tightened his grip on my waist, pulling me a bit closer. It's been years, you've learned not to speak anymore. After so many years, Jerry has learned to wrongly accuse. He stared into my eyes like an eagle, his grip becoming firmer. Where's Joshua? Why isn't he with you in Milan? I asked. What about your companion? Not showing up tonight, so you saw me on the runway. I fell silent, no longer speaking, just following his lead as we danced. When the song ended, he pulled me to an empty terrace. The wind was a bit chilly, and he took off his jacket and draped it over my shoulders, and I didn't refuse. After a few drinks, he finally spoke. For whom did those tears fall? What do you think? He looked into the distance in silence and said, for a moment, I felt they were for me. I was about to respond when his companion caught up to us, looking at us with a puzzled expression. Jerry, who's this lady? Jerry stayed silent for a moment and introduced, Emily, my high school classmate, who is also my ex-girlfriend, Luna, my childhood friend and soon-to-be fiancé. Suddenly, a chilly gust of wind blew through, bone-chilling cold. Luna greeted me graciously. So you're Emily, pleasure to meet you. Jerry misspoke, we're not engaged yet. That's happening at the end of the month. She glanced at the jacket draped over me, and I awkwardly began to take it off, but it got stuck, and I couldn't get it off no matter how hard I tried. My face turned red, fumbling and embarrassed. I thought I would never encounter a more awkward situation in my life. Luna gently held my hand, stopping my embarrassing and ridiculous actions. It's okay, Emily, you can keep the jacket on. I nodded numbly and said, thank you. I have something to do, so I'll leave now. I returned to the party, met the people I needed to meet, and collected the resources I needed to collect. That night, I obtained the private contact information of many social elites, and received several cooperation invitations from major international brands. Back at the hotel, with blurred vision from the alcohol, I instinctively reached for my phone in my pocket. The screen lit up with my photo as the screensaver. I tried to call my assistant, but realized I didn't have her number saved. Just as I was pondering, a call came in. Hey, my phone is with you. Can you give it back to me? Drunk, I responded. How could your phone be with me? You're talking nonsense. The phone you're holding is mine. Where are you? I'll come get it. I'm with you. I felt the blanket under me, mumbling, in bed. He remained silent at his end for a long time and asked hoarsely, "Where are you?" "At the Bulgari Hotel." That night, alcohol clouded my mind, but he remained clear. When I boarded the plane back home, the airline informed me that I had been upgraded. Upgrades weren't new to me, but switching planes for an upgrade was a first. The deserted shuttle took me to the plane, and only passenger, Jerry, was flipping through financial reports. "What do you mean?" He looked up at me. "Coincidentally, I'm giving you a ride back home." I found it amusing. "You're getting engaged at the end of the month, and you leave your fiancé to give me a ride back home?" He replied, "Yes." I tried to get off the plane, not wanting to get involved in a complicated and potentially harmful situation. However, the cabin door had been closed. I sat down, fastened my seatbelt, and then let's talk business. I was a bit surprised. It turned out he wanted to talk about business. Joshua said his family was donating a batch of artifacts to the National Museum, which he had collected over the years from Europe and America. Some he found in the wild, others he bid on at auctions, and some were donated by wealthy businessmen, totaling 361 pieces. These artifacts would be exhibited separately. He said, "I want to entrust your company to handle this." Despite great difficulties internally, I immediately agreed. He chuckled, "You're committing without discussing the commercial terms. Even if I have to pay for the privilege, I will grab the opportunity. I understand the social value far outweighs the economic value. When shall we sign the contract?" To show sincerity, I opened my laptop on the spot and drafted a plan. While drafting, I asked him a question. "Are those artifacts all on this plane?" "They are not here, and there's no space for them." Disappointed, I asked, "None of those treasures you found are here?" I was looking forward to seeing them. He turned his gaze from the pad back to me, looking me in the eye. "One is, I must keep it with me to be at ease." I asked eagerly, "What is it?" After the plane landed, without a word, he took me straight to a KN, and all the way to the villa. Whenever I showed any resistance, he would ask, "Do you still want to sign the contract?" In the deserted villa, a long dining table was set with food. We sat at opposite ends, and Jerry pushed the contract toward me. "Answer my 3 questions truthfully, and not only will you handle this artifact exhibition, but all art exhibitions within our company's reach will be yours." I quickly responded, "Ask away. I guarantee 100% honesty." He opened a bottle of wine, poured me half a glass. "For whom did that tear fall?" I took the glass, looked into his eyes, and answered truthfully, "For you, for myself, for our love that ended in vain." He hesitated for a moment, then drank the entire glass in one go. I smiled and joined him. "Next question, tell me, between me and Joshua, you chose me. In these years, have you ever regretted it?" I refilled his glass and calmly replied, "I never chose him." He incredulously stared at me. "Emily, you're supposed to tell the truth." "That is the truth. I never chose him. Even when I helped his family all those years ago, it was for his parents. I had long let him go, but you never believed it." "You haven't been with him in these 7 years." "No, I haven't." He suddenly seemed to have difficulty breathing, gasping for breath, then burst into laughter, tears welling up in his eyes, and finally drank down the contents of the glass. I joined him in another glass, then asked him, "What about the 3rd question?" "Let's have dinner first. After dinner, we'll talk, okay?" And that began a silent and lengthy dinner. He plated each dish one at a time, his movements elegant and graceful. This Jerry was starkly different from the one who casually bit into the apple one had handed him years back. Feeling stifled, I asked if he could turn on the TV in the adjacent living room for some background noise. The TV came on, showing the financial channel, and Joshua's voice suddenly filled the empty room. The host was interviewing him. Joshua, now a financial magnate, and the president of DC Group. The host asked him if he had any regrets in life. Joshua looked into the camera and said, "I mistook pearls for fish eyes in high school, and carelessly let someone else snatch them away. I have been regretting it day and night for 7 years. Luckily, she is single now, and I still have a chance." The person he mentioned was having a meal with me. When Jerry heard this, he gentlemanly put down his knife and fork, pushed the sliced beef towards me, and said he needed to make a phone call. I got up to turn off the TV, feeling the sea breeze as I listened carefully. On the balcony with a sea view, he ordered in a cold voice, "DC Group has completed Series C financing, right? Tell those 3 companies to withdraw their investments." After the call, he returned to the dining table. "Emily, one last question. Think carefully before you answer," he said solemnly. I nodded. "Do you want me to call off the engagement?" Luna couldn't understand why Jerry fell for Emily back in high school. She had gone to school with them once, and to her, Emily seemed just like an ordinary person, decent appearance, good grades, average family background. She could stand out among ordinary people, but compared to Jerry, she seemed quite far off. Only Jerry knew why. The first time Jerry saw Emily was at an accident scene. That day, a young construction worker in his 20s fell from a 6-meter-high building under construction, his thin chest piercing the exposed steel bars. He didn't die on the spot. Instead, he hung on the steel bars, his body covered in blood, coughing up blood while crying out for his mother. The scene was too bloody, and the bystanders were in chaos, not knowing what to do, only able to watch the poor guy, blood flowing more and more. Some sighed sadly, some covered their faces and wept, some couldn't bear to look anymore. Just as Jerry was calling for an ambulance, a girl in simple clothes and a backpack rushed out. She hugged the blood-soaked construction worker with all her strength, lifting him up so he had something to rely on, not having to stand on his tiptoes alone. She said softly, "Don't be afraid, it will be okay. The doctor will come soon. Just hold on a little longer." She wanted to ease his pain. She didn't want him to die alone. That day, as the young construction worker called out for his mother, in pain, he died in her arms. When he took his final breath, she was covered in blood, with tears streaming down her face. She was only a high school sophomore at the time. He had never seen such a passionate soul before. Since that day, this girl named Emily walked into Jerry's heart and never left. For her, he transferred to the same high school. Shortly after the transfer, he found out she had a crush on someone. She had a whole sketchbook filled with drawings of Joshua. Joshua, what made him so great? He even insulted her appearance in those boring and disgusting class elections. When she switched seats to sit next to him, Jerry felt like the heavens had finally answered his prayers, and he started to find ways to treat her well. When she asked him if he liked her, Jerry had never been so nervous and incoherent in his life. She always thought he was just someone who knew how to have fun. He thought he needed to show her his excellent side, so he deliberately told her the broadcast time of the Olympic trials. He even waited downstairs in her building, hoping to hear her compliment him, but she was at Joshua's house instead. The two figures behind the window were so close that it made him go crazy with jealousy. He had to restrain himself from rushing upstairs and pulling them apart. He counted the seconds at the end of the alley, feeling like his heart was on fire. When he saw her, he couldn't hold back anymore. That night, he kissed her with all his strength. They ended up together, but he never felt secure. She complied with him, but never showed any sign of liking him. It was a world of difference compared to when she liked Joshua before. When she asked him to help Joshua's family, the string in his heart snapped. Was everything for Joshua? Jerry had never experienced such a sense of defeat in his life. She texted, "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to make you uncomfortable. I'm not doing all this for Joshua." How could he believe that? He noticed every subtle drawing, every fleeting glance towards Joshua. When he saw her giving a speech at school, Joshua stood tenderly by her side, watching her. When he stopped her at the school gate to ask if she was considering domestic universities, she nodded. Jerry let go. He threw himself into training for the Olympics. On the day he won the championship, he couldn't help but send Emily a message. "I heard you got accepted. Congratulations." She had already deleted him. Why? Just because she didn't want to help Joshua. Finally, Jerry went to his father and confessed about Joshua. If Emily really wanted to be with Joshua for life, then nothing could happen to Joshua. Luckily, Joshua's father was not implicated, and things were resolved relatively smoothly. Joshua came to thank him, and they exchanged contact information in a courteous manner. From that day on, Jerry could occasionally see Emily's figure in Joshua's updates. Her university life was colorful, and she was visibly becoming more beautiful. He secretly went to see her a few times, careful not to be seen by her. When he was invited to her school for a panel discussion, he couldn't resist asking a professor to pass her a ticket, but she never showed up. That seat remained empty the whole night. Jerry finally understood. On the day Joshua officially announced being with Emily on social media, Jerry was about to go wingsuit flying. His friends advised against it, but he still went. In the midst of unstable air currents, for a moment, he wondered if she would be heartbroken if something happened to him. After that incident, he stopped checking Joshua's updates. At that time, he never doubted the authenticity of those posts. He didn't know how far a person could go to possess another person. All he knew was that he had never missed someone so much yet didn't want to see that person. The fact that she would never belong to him was crushing. His restless obsession and unwillingness could only be vented through extreme sports. Everything changed at the Milan fashion show. Emily looked at him, her eyes bright yet filled with sadness. When that tear rolled down her cheek, Jerry's perception was overturned. Why was she crying? Could it be because of him? Did she have him in her heart? He needed to know the answer. At the terrace of the banquet, he asked. By the corridors of the Bulgari hotel, he asked again. She, slightly intoxicated, held onto his neck and said, there's only one person in this world who can make me cry. That person is too far away from me. I've been desperately trying to catch up, and just when I closed the gap a bit, he's about to get married. Initially shocked and confused, Jerry gradually turned ecstatic. The answer was on the brink of revelation, but these words were spoken under the influence. He wanted a clear and sober response from her. Jerry asked me 3 questions, essentially the same one. Do you love me? His expression was cautious and insecure. Everything became clear. Looking into his eyes, I asked the only doubt on my mind. What's the relationship between you and Luna? You answer my question first. I need to know what your relationship is before I can answer that question. Don't worry about that. Just tell me, do you want me to call off the engagement? He stubbornly stared at me, relentlessly demanding an answer. I took a deep breath and earnestly replied, yes. I want you to call it off. I don't want to see you marry someone else. But before I could finish, he sealed my words with a kiss, a strong, fierce, almost devouring one. It was a mix of revenge and seeking reparation, with some remnants of sanity. I reminded him about Luna. As he kissed me fervently, he answered Luna's call on speakerphone. Luna's urgent voice came through. Cousin, what's the result? If you're feeling jealous, then you definitely have feelings for her. Did you agree to my plan of action? Can you get it done? That night, under the soft moonlight and moist sea breeze, he whispered temptations into my ears, one after another. Is it okay? The moonlight spread inch by inch, the waves lapping one after the other. Shadows on the wall entangled with moonlight, sinking bit by bit into this endless tenderness. I remembered the first time I saw him at school. It was in the winter of my sophomore year, with thick snowflakes falling. After I finished my classroom duty and went to throw the garbage, he stood under the dim light in the hallway, holding a few books. The yellow light shone on his face like a painting. He said, "Are you from class 1? I'm a transfer student named Jerry. Do you need a desk mate?" I remembered a time when I was doubled over the desk in pain during my period, and he casually handed me a box of painkillers as he invited the whole class for milk tea. Only my cup was hot. I remembered many times turning back in class and meeting his eyes that he hurriedly averted. I remembered the first time he ditched everyone to take me on a ride, his nervous yet undisguised joy. But back then, I was caged in by an ugly image, never daring to believe that someone could inexplicably like me. Even though he repeatedly showed his affection through actions, I couldn't fully believe it. Little did I know, he was just like me, just as anxious and insecure in love as I was. How foolish and ridiculous we both were. But luckily, after all the twists and turns, we didn't miss each other. Later, when reporters interviewed us, they asked if it was a great regret that we missed each other for a full 7 years. Jerry firmly stated, "Of course." I nodded, but then shook my head. It was regretful, yet not regretful. During high school, seeing him shine, I felt dim in comparison. He was a tall tree early on, while I was just a seed. If not for those 7 years when I slowly pushed myself out of my shell, growing towards the sun, I wouldn't have been able to stand before him now with equality and confidence, calmly accepting his love. The reporter continued, "There are reports that DC Group's CEO Joshua has been openly showing affection for Emily lately and even named the company's product after her." Jerry looked into the camera. "This segment airs tonight, right?" The cameraman nodded. Jerry pulled out a marriage certificate. "Joshua, do you know what this is? If you bother my wife again, I'll take real action. Think it through." I said, "Remove that segment." "No, it stays." "Why do you want to remove it? Do you have something in mind?" "It's like kids quarreling, undignified." "I don't care." "Are you sure we're including him in the official video of our marriage announcement?" After some thought, he vigorously shook his head. Before the wedding, we were on the terrace by the sea, and I asked him a question that had been buried in my heart for so long. "Jerry, did you think I was plain and ugly during high school?" "Back then, the guys in class all thought I was ugly." He replied, "The first time I saw you, you were holding that blooded labor. You shone so brightly that I couldn't look at you directly. After that, I spent a whole year just looking at your profile, countless times invading my dreams. I learned early on that standards of beauty and ugliness are subjective and fickle, and judging someone by appearance is shallow and crude. I also understood that a beautiful exterior will fade away in time, but a beautiful soul will never dim. Most importantly, you have to trust me. If I choose someone, that person is undoubtedly one in a million.